Alright, hello everyone. I have very limited time to film today, but I wanted to get this out while my rage is still fresh. There are ferrets loose in the house. Look who it is, it's Tendy. She's come right away to begin the biting, which will help fuel my rage. The book today that we're going to be talking about is called The Atlas Six, and I picked it up just because, you know, it's been on my TBR a little bit, and I had been thinking about maybe making it a read-along book, but it wasn't getting like enough buzz as far as I was seeing to be like, yeah, this should definitely be a read-along book. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna read it and review it for my channel. And I did not expect the level of hatred that I have for this book. I have not hate-read something so aggressively in a long time, and the only reason that I finished it is because I needed to share my experiences with you all here on this channel. So, you know, this book just wasn't for me. So if you are a lover of this book, you're probably gonna want to go watch a different review of it. Because we're about to sick an angry ferret on this book. So what is the Atlas Six about? My understanding was that for a little while, in the beginning of its life, it was self-published, and then it got picked up by a publisher because, once again, I think TikTok is responsible for this. TikTok, please, either stop getting mediocre books, and this book, I will posit, is not mediocre. This book is infuriating. Stop getting mediocre books traditionally published, or pay more attention to my books. Those are your two options, TikTok. That's all I'm giving you. All right, what is the Atlas Six about? The Alexandrian Society, caretakers of lost knowledge from the greatest civilizations of antiquity, are the foremost secret society of magical academics in the world. Those who earn a place among the Alexandrians will secure a life of wealth, power, and prestige beyond their wildest dreams. And each decade, only the 6 most uniquely talented magicians are selected to be considered for initiation. Enter the latest round of 6. Libby Rhodes and Nico de Verona, unwilling halves of an unfathomable whole, who exert uncanny control over every element of physicality. Reina Mori, a naturalist who can intuit the language of life itself. Parisa Kamali, a telepath who can traverse the depths of the subconscious, navigating worlds inside the human mind. Callum Nova, an empath, easily mistaken for a manipulative illusionist, who can influence the intimate workings of a person's inner self. And finally, there's Tristan Kane. You can tell that this person really just was very into naming people. Finally, there's Tristan Kane, who can see through illusions and to a new structure of reality, an ability so rare that neither he nor his peers can fully grasp its implications. When the candidates are recruited by the mysterious Atlas Blakely, they are told they have 1 year to qualify for initiation, during which time they will be permitted preliminary access to the Society's archives and judged based on their contributions to various subjects of impossibility, time and space, luck and thought, life and death. Sure, book. Sure. This is the biggest case of the blurb lied that I've heard in a long time. 5, they are told, will be initiated. 1 will be eliminated for stupid reasons. It's dumb. The 6 potential initiates will fight to survive the next year of their lives, and if they can prove themselves to be the best among their rivals, most of them will. Oh my goodness, there's 2 ferrets on my chair now. I have Tendy and Lan. It's Lan. It's Lan. Old man Lan. Tendy. It's Lan and Tendy. Okay, so this book, I'm gonna try to like go through this in some semblance of reasonable order, but mostly it's just incoherent screaming because the blurb makes it sound like it's gonna have like a plot or structure or interesting characters, and it had none of those things. Stop biting me. So let's try starting with the characters and see how we go. These characters are just the most obnoxious group of people you'll ever meet in your life. And at first I was like, okay, you know, some unlikable characters. They can probably grow or at least be unlikable in interesting ways, but no. These are all just hateable people, not a redeeming characteristic among them.
Is there no way we can get rid of him?
Not without cause, Michael.
I have cause. It is because I hate him.
I think that Nico and Libby are supposed to be likable, but they're not And nobody else is even supposed to be. I'm getting my notes on my phone because I started to have to rant in my phone, and I feel like I described them well. These characters are a bunch of pretentious fucks lusting after each other. That's basically the whole book. So let's just go through them one at a time, shall we? We get points of view from all of these characters, and in the audiobook that I was listening to, we got out the big bucks, and each character had their own narrator. So like, we're spending the money on this book. So let's start with Libby and Nico. We are informed, like with every character, we're just informed that they have been rivals their whole lives. They are both animists, I think is what it's called. So they have control over elements, including things like time and space eventually we find out. Which sounds cool, but it's not. Anything that I say that sounds cool, the book fucks it up and it's not cool in the book, okay? I just know that going in. But they are like a duo, so they totally hate each other, but they function best together. Which again, another thing that sounds like it will be cool and the book fucks it up. But right away, you notice, as these two characters are being introduced first, that we are just being told about them by the narrative. We are not introduced to them organically through their actions and interactions. It's just like, they have been enemies, they hate each other, but they have to work together. Like, it's just so boring and unengaging to read. And every single character is like that. And then, don't even get me started, after the narrative has just told us about all of these characters, their thoughts, their feelings, their relationships, because we don't have time to actually see them do those things. Then we get a character who's a mind reader, and we get to listen to her tell us what she has gotten from all these characters' minds to exposit even more about the characters. Would you like to get to know characters in a thoughtful and organic way? Well, too bad, this is not the book for you. Would you like to watch a bunch of disparate people build their relationships? I'm sorry, this is not the book for you. Supposedly they do, but we'll get to that. Again, it's all telling, it's all telling. So we've got Libby and Nico, and then we have Raina, who the author hates or doesn't care about, because why is Raina here? Raina has nothing to do. We get her point of view, and she can hear the voices of plants, and the plants are just like, mother, mother, they want her attention. I'm assuming she's maybe going to be a bigger character in upcoming books because she was pointless in this one. Then there's Parisa, who another reviewer said is obviously the author's favorite, and I agree. Parisa gets to have, I think she probably has almost the most time spent in her head. I think we might spend slightly more time with Nico. But we spend a lot of time with Parisa. She's the mind reader. She's also like the sexiest one. She's the most desirable. She can get anybody in bed that she wants to. And she reads their mind while they're having sex and all of this stuff. And so Parisa is just your bog standard femme fatale, and also she can read minds. And she doesn't get any deeper than that. I know the author thinks that Parisa is deep, but she's not. None of these characters are deep. And then we have Callum, who is also there. Yep. And Tristan, who is a psychopath. I think he's the one that we're not supposed to like, but I didn't like any of these people. Like, the author has to work so hard to make one of these characters the dislikable one, that what has resulted is an actual psychopath. And like, that could be cool. Again, it could be cool if all of these other characters weren't varying degrees of utterly hateable people. I want to punch every single one of them in their stupid smug face. Even Libby, even Nico, punches all around for everyone. But he is the worst, because clearly he does not feel empathy or human emotion and just thinks of humans as like a separate being from him, and they're just dumb little creatures going around in his life that he has to deal with. So yeah, not a lot from the characters here. And honestly, the characters are the whole book. Like, they apparently are all like the very best of the best, and some of them don't even realize how powerful they are. So if you, like me, have a low tolerance for characters that are just so powerful we can't even fathom it, then you will have a low tolerance for this book. But the characters kind of are leading into the plot because there isn't one. So all of these very, very, very special magical people go to The Library of Alexandria, which was saved and is currently in England, I believe, and like the barest hint of a mention is made about how, once again, the British have stolen culture artifacts from other cultures, but we really don't care. We're walking. We're moving past that. It's here now. And all of these people, all of these assholes, are here to become guardians of this top secret magical library that apparently all these other magical societies that we don't understand and never see are trying to break into. So that's the plot. Like, we are told about the characters, that a lot of them are like intellectual and like to study. Them occasionally reading a book when we come into a scene with them is not enough to prove to me that they are actually intellectuals here to study. Because 99% of this book is one character walking into a room where another character already is, and them having a pseudo-philosophical conversation at each other for a while about their powers, and then they leave. And that's the entire book, is just scene after scene of that. There are I believe two scenes where danger happens. And I didn't actually hate every single moment of those scenes, where the characters actually get to use their powers and do things. It's just so random and so like poorly plotted, I can't even. So at one point, Libby is working together with someone else, I can't remember who, one of the boys, and they casually invent time travel, or like at least stopping time. They casually invent stopping time. Nico and Libby invent wormholes with their magic off page, and we just come back to find out that they've been using wormholes to go to the kitchen for snacks. It's just so disjointed and confusing, and it's mostly just an excuse for the author to have characters go talk to each other and sound intellectual, but really it's just drivel. Like, this book clearly thinks that it is very intelligent, but if you stop and think about like most of the things the characters say, obviously none of these characters talk like humans do. Not a single conversation felt like a natural conversation. I feel like that's a given at this point. But also, if you stop and think about anything that they say, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Because they use big words, seems like it might be intellectual. Like, at one point, there's a line that stuck out to me, and I'm gonna try to remember it. It was like...
So of course my camera chose this exact moment to bookmark, which meant I lost a little bit of footage right in the middle of the quote. But the quote is something like, "Survivor's guilt is always sharpest in hindsight."
What the fuck does that mean? I mean, survivor's guilt kind of is, by its nature, in hindsight. What? And it's all like that. It is wall-to-wall, philosophical nonsense. But I'm sure that the author felt that they were being very, very intelligent and very, very thoughtful, and I did not know that I was signing up for a book that was just that. I thought that I was signing up for a book about a bunch of different characters learning to be badasses and save the Library of Alexandria. But instead, it was just a bunch of characters sitting around and talking about each other's powers and the nature of humanity and how they look down on everyone else. And they form little cliques, you know, based on their powers mostly, and then they swap around the cliques and who likes whom, and they all are thirsty for each other. We cannot forget the thirstiness, and there's a threesome at one point, and I'm just like, what are we doing? And then we got to the ending, and like, it was still stupid, but it made me cackle a little bit, because at one point we had the trope with Libby, who has a boyfriend before she comes to this place, the magical library, whatever. But of course, because we've read books before, we know that Libby's boyfriend is suddenly going to be an undesirable love match, and she has to find a new love match at the library, which she does. I can't remember which of the boys, not the psychopath one, and not Nico. You'd think it would be Nico, but I think Nico is gay. Or at least bi. He's not as interested in her as he could be, because he's got somebody else. But anyway, I'll talk about Nico and his weird situation in a minute. she does the thing that they always do, where if the boyfriend is being reasonably curious and concerned about their significant other, the girlfriend has to suddenly be like, how dare he? How dare he want to know about my day? He's smothering me, caring about my well-being. What an asshole. And Libby was doing that left, right, and center. Like, he would ask a perfectly reasonable, he could ask her, hey hun, how was your day? And she would be like, he's smothering me. He won't leave me alone. Oh, he's just so invasive with his questions. And I'm like, you know, most people would kill for a significant other that cares about how their day went, but okay, go off, I guess, Libby. But it turns out, and I don't mind spoiling this for you because this book is a disaster, it turns out that he is actually a time traveler of sorts, and he was at least working with what's his name, with the Atlas guy, and he was actually like just playing Libby. He became her boyfriend to like keep an eye on her and monitor her and everything like that, and he's actually in on some sort of larger plan, I think involving time travel to reset the world. Some bullshit. I don't know, it came up in the last like teeny tiny bit of the book. It was like, oh yeah, maybe we should like resolve something. I would say resolve the plot, but there isn't a plot. It would require... Giorgio, why are you so hyper today? It would require us to have a plot for us to resolve it, but it turned out that he was playing her the whole time, and I laughed because she deserves it for treating his simple, ordinary, caring about her life and her day as though he is being completely unreasonable. She deserves it. Fuck her. Fuck all of them. I was super sad that only one of them is supposed to die at the end of this, which nobody even does. Of course not. But one of them is supposed to die, and I was like, I want all of them to die. Can all of them please die? I will celebrate. I will dance on their graves. I know this sounds extreme, but I hated every single one of these people so much.
I hated her so much. Flames.
There was a side plot with Nico where this felt like it was plucked out of a completely different book. This didn't belong in this book. But Nico has a roommate slash boy he has a crush on that he is helping through dreams to deal with his evil mermaid mother. What the fuck? So these chapters felt like they came the fuck out of nowhere and belonged in a completely different story. And it's like hinted that the fact that he's doing this is another sign that he's so super duper powerful. Or maybe his roommate is, and maybe the roommate's gonna come up as a character in future books, which I will never read. You could put a gun to my head and I would let you shoot me before I read any more of this absolute pretentious drivel. Now that we've gotten characters and plot out of the way, how were the prose? They were also garbage, thanks for asking. This book went back and forth between literally like baby's first prose and hey look mom, I found a thesaurus. It was just so bad. And let me tell you, the characters sat a lot. Pretty much every scene somebody would come in and sit down, or they would start out in the scene sitting down. You know, fascinating scenarios to put your characters in. Sitting and talking, sometimes laying down and talking. But no characters ever got up or stood up or just stood. Every single time they rose to their feet. As soon as you notice the rose to their feet thing, it gets into your brain. At least in my case, made me want to go on a killing spree. Like, please, using rose to their feet is fine, but you diversify a little bit. Please have them stand up sometimes. Get up, just stand, push to their feet, anything, but they always rise to their feet. That is all they ever do if they need to get up from any position that is not standing. They rise to their feet. And I believe a character rises to their feet at least once in every single scene. So yes, the prose, also not good. I just don't understand why everybody loves this book so much. The only thing I can think of is maybe young people who do feel very smart reading this book, but it's not a smart book. It's just a book that thinks that it's smart. This book is mean-spirited pseudo-intellectualism at its finest. I did write some notes. Everybody's a dick. Yep, talked about that. Rise to their feet. I noticed it right away. I clocked it right away. Like, the characters become interested in time travel for no reason that I can discern. It just suddenly becomes something that they're interested in. Oh yes, this note. This book seems like the author had an idea for some characters, but not for the world or the plot. So they just bashed the characters together like a kid playing with Barbies. And this book is what would happen if you have a bunch of assholes with godlike powers, and all they did was act superior and snipe at each other. I did not enjoy my time. Can you tell? And I just needed to get that rage out of my system. I can't even read reviews of people who liked this book. I cannot understand what people liked so much. I'm sorry if you really liked it and you somehow watched all the way through this review, but it was not to my taste. Let's say that it was not to my taste. The only time that I wasn't filled with just rage was the ending. Because it was almost done, and also something was happening, and also at least one character had been being used, and I loved that for her. I was really hoping that it was going to turn out that they needed to kill someone, yes, but the person they needed to kill was Atlas. And so, like, it would be part of the ritual that they didn't know about, that they would have to kill, like, the last caretaker, the previous caretaker, Atlas, and they'd have to work together to kill him, but they didn't. That wasn't the plot. Oh, also, we're meant to believe. The book tells us, because it tells us everything. It never shows us things. Why would you show things in a book? It tells us that these characters have totally bonded and are working together as a team. When that is not true, they still hate each other. They're just in different cliques now at the end. This did not work. If you want like the best team to guard your stolen library, you have failed, because everybody here is just out for themselves and thinks that they are the hot shit. Nico and Libby care about each other. Their arc is supposed to be, I think, that they start out as rivals and get to become friends, but like, you just told us they were rivals, and then the only thing you showed us ever was them working together. Like, they sniped at each other, but it was some of the worst written, like, sniping at each other that I've ever seen, and I was not convinced even slightly that they didn't like each other. Because you can't just tell me that characters are a certain way. You have to show me, I'm sorry. Some readers are fine with that style of writing, the very telly style of writing. And I've read several books that are very popular that have that style. But I am not one of those readers. I am not one of those writers. So if you are looking for someone to help you and make sure that your style is showing, not telling, I may be the developmental editor for you though. So feel free to check out my Fiverr. I've got a couple of different developmental options now at this point, so if you're interested, you know what to do. All the links are below. And if you want to read some books where, in my humble opinion, the characters are good, I have some books that you could read. And if you want to rave about them on TikTok, that would be super helpful. Instagram, YouTube. But TikTok seems to be where all the really big, hot books are coming from. I need to go. I have lots of stuff to do today, but I just needed to get this out of my system. Thank you for listening to my rant, and I will see all of you next time with whatever it is I happen to be doing next time. Bye!
I hated her so much. Flames on the side of my face, heaving breaths.